Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Ari and Big Mike are proud to present the greatest podcast in the world. No snowflakes allowed, and summer is coming.
This is a podcast that was started by two guys on cigar night. So, what do we have today, Mike?
Well, I tell you, you read me a couple excerpts from this book that I found like, wow. So I think we should discuss that.
Okay. So, in one of our previous episodes, we discussed the book The Lies They Tell by Tuvia Tenenbaum. And this is one of those books that you can learn one of the things I consider one of the most important things, which is if you want to know something, what you really got to do is listen and ask the right questions. Instead of just taking it all in, taking in what the media says or whatever, just go out and ask questions and look and listen. And that's what Tuvia Tenenbaum did. He's a Jew originally from Bnei Brak, and he lived in Germany for quite a while. And in this project, he went to the United States, and he traveled around the United States, meeting people, talking to people, and seeing what they were all about. In our previous episode, he discussed that if you ask somebody about their beliefs about climate change, and they say they are very much for climate action, and the next question you ask them is, who do you support, Israel or Palestine? They almost always say, yes, I support Palestine if they're for radical climate action. But in recent weeks, we have seen, to our horror, people marching in their thousands, chanting, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which basically means that the Holy Land, Israel, will be Jew-free if they get their way. And that is a horrifying thing to see. But if you've been watching, if you've been asking the right questions, and if you've been listening to the answers, you could have seen this coming a mile away, as I'm sure Tuvia Tenenbaum would say he saw.
I mean, duh. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me just stop the process there. There are people in this world who are anti-Semitic.
Right, but you would have thought. I mean, people were shocked. And you know something? I mean, the extent of what we saw in terms of people marching against Israel was, I can't say I was shocked, but you know something? I was quite disheartened about it.
Right, but when you look at anti-Semites, right, if you look at the ones who are on the right versus the ones who are on the left, there's different things that show that they're anti-Semites. I see Tannenbaum's thing. A lot of people on the right don't give a rat's ass about, climate change, and they don't give a rat's ass about the environment. They care about money. And those people are anti-Semitic for a different reason than those who are on the left. You find that people on the left are more into, how the world should be versus what it is.
Or getting rich through politics instead of getting rich and then going into
maybe
politics.
Maybe so, but I mean, even the average Joe are talking about people who tend to be on the left are more idealistic. And I'm talking in the American political spectrum. I'm not talking in any other country. I'm just talking America for a second. You see that those who are on the left, right, they try and live this more idealistic idea of how life should be. They get offended when someone uses bad speech. They get upset if you go against them because they want the world to be better, but they're not looking at what's going on in the world today. Those who are on the right tend to be more in the world today, and they're much more based in reality, but they have a lot less idealism. And you see it in how they talk about their anti-Semitism, about what's this and what's that. That's what they're showing to you. Now, mind you, within both sides of the political spectrum, there are a lot of people who live in reality, and there's a lot of people who live in fantasy. But here's the thing: we're talking specifically anti-Semitism.
Okay.
I think what he said was kind of incomplete.
Okay, let's take a look here. But before I read you what what he wrote. I'm going to completely disagree with you about idealism. And after I read this, you'll see why I do not think idealism has anything to do with this.
Well, before you go there, I'm talking in a general way. I'm not talking specifics. I'm talking. This is the baseline of what people are supposed to think. How we're supposed to be in the difference between the left and the right. Right now, I'm not saying that's how we are. I'm saying that's the oversimplification of it. Okay, so let's use that as like the standard for a second. I'm not. There's a lot more complexity to this than just what I said. I'm
Okay,
gonna put that out
okay, fine. I just don't see idealism anywhere to be found.
there. Oh no, I'm not saying there's. I'm not saying there is idealism. I'm saying that's what it's supposed to be.
Okay, so Tuvia Tenenbaum is now in St. Paul, Minnesota, and he's at an organization by a group called Jewish Community Action in St. Paul. And he says he's in a in a room. There are 70 people in attendance. 2 of them are wearing yarmulkes. The attendees sit around tables. They're spread across the room, and he sits down. And the first speaker gets up. A young lady goes to the podium. She speaks about our system, referring to the American justice system, and says that it is stacked against blacks. This event, I quickly realized, is not about anti-Semitism, but about white racism. The Jews here, I slowly find out, feel guilty about the white guy who killed 9 blacks in the black church in South Carolina. No, Dylan Roof isn't Jewish, but he's white, and these Jews feel responsible. Well, first of all, they didn't do anything. That crime was one person's crime, and Dylan Roof should hang for that. Okay, so why? Ask them. Time passes slowly, and then a black lady comes to the podium. American Jews, I have found long ago, love to have at least one black person at their events. They've got one here, a good one. She's not just black, but also a, quote, Jew by choice black. She introduces herself, which means that she's a convert. She, in other words, was a black lady who fell in love with Jews. Well, not exactly. She has a big problem with Jews, she tells the audience. American Jews, she has discovered, since becoming Jewish, are racist, and she wants all Jews present to know that she has blown their cover. As if that were not enough, she adds that racism also exists within the Israeli Jewish community. Ethiopians in Israel, she says, are 2% of the population, but 30% of them have a police record. Who's to blame? Everybody in Israel, including the Israeli government. Israel publicly invited French Jews to come to Israel, she says, but will not do the same for black Jews. She, of course, neglects to mention that Israel sent planes to Africa to bring black Jews to Israel. And that's how the Ethiopians are in Israel to start with. But that's a minor detail, too minor to mention. When she's done with accusing the Jews present here applaud her. Don't ask me to explain. You see, that's why I don't think it has a lot to do with idealism. Because if somebody's going to insult you, and somebody says, wow, you're a really lousy person, and they list real things about you that make you a lousy person, are you going to stand up and applaud? Or are you going to say, wait a second, you either they're right or they're wrong. If they're right, you say, I got to take that account. You're accusing me personally, and I will do what it takes. But I have a feeling that a lot of the Jews in the audience who are applauding were saying, oh, no, it's those guys who are racist. It's those other people who are racist, and we are the better of them. Among the Jews in the world, we are the best, the brightest, the elect, and all those other Jews are the people you're talking about.
I mean, this woman is like not very intelligent.
I've never met her. I can't say how intelligent she is.
No, she wants to look at things, and she doesn't want to really look at all the details. She's saying that 30% of the Ethiopian community is living a life of crime.
Not life of crime, just as a police record.
Just as a police record. Well, guess what? If you protest at the wrong rally, and you can get a police record in Israel. Like, just let's be honest. If you start screaming and whatever and being whatever, you can get a record. You can get a record for many different things. You can get arrested for a lot of stuff. You piss off the wrong guy, whether or not you did anything or not, right? So okay, so let's just take a step back there. But also, you also have to understand the Ethiopian community. The Ethiopian community, for the most part, but still believed that the second Beis Hamikdash, the second holy temple that was in Jerusalem, was still there. And when they got off the plane, what did they all want to do? They all wanted to go to Jerusalem. They all wanted to go see the Bayis Sheni, the second temple. That's what they all did, and their hearts were broken. Like, people don't realize how many suicides happened when they saw the second temple was destroyed. Even though it was destroyed 1900 years ago, they still didn't know about it. So for them, it was happened as if it was just happened, and a lot of people didn't get over that. It broke them, like, in ways that most people will never get broken. I think that she's looking at and she's not realizing that, and she's not realizing what Ethiopians went through as a people, to find that the Judaism that they'd been living was 2,000 years old, and so much of what they were doing was what we still do today, mind you. But they also didn't have the Beis Hamikdash. They couldn't wait to bring offerings up to Hashem. They wanted to bring offerings up to God. They wanted to, do all the things that they read about and they learned about, but they just weren't able to, and it killed them. And then what happened? Hold on, let me finish this. Then what happened? A lot of them came into society, and they became part of the Knesset, and they became part of the army, and they rose up to high ranks, and they rose up all over the place within the Israeli government. 2% of the population, yet there they were, being a part of the population, being represented. Like what? Like, why can't she talk about that? No. Let's to forget that. There's many great Jews across all the spectrums, from China, Japan, from the east to the west, India, the Africa. Like, there's Jews from all over the world, and she wants to harp on like one thing, and it's sad, because she just dismisses all the good that's been done.
She's obviously wrong about Israel, for example, as you were saying. But the larger point that Tenenbaum is making is that when people tell you how much they hate you, you might want to actually believe them. You might, instead of applauding, you might say, hey, that's just terrible. You hate me? We don't hate you back. That is absolutely unbelievable that people would applaud.
But that's part of the problem of the left, is the left forgets all the, like, you look, at all the things that the left will talk about, right? What do you see? They see that they forget that the same people that want to kill the right also want to kill the left. They see that we live in this magical, this is the idealism. If we just do what they want, if we give them land for peace, if we do this or we do that, then they'll be happy. No, they're very crystal clear in saying, we want to push all the Jews into the sea. That's the problem with Hamas. That's the problem with Islamic Jihad. That's the problem with Hezbollah, right? That's the problem with Iran. They want to kill us. And it doesn't matter if we're lefty or a righty. Believe them when they say that. Hitler wrote Mein Kampf. A lot of Jews didn't believe it.
There are Jews who actually joined an organization supporting the National Socialist Movement, and the leader of that organization, I believe he died in Dachau.
Yeah, well,
I don't remember his name specifically.
I understand that, but remember, there are capos in every camp.
There were, but this was before they were ever in any camp.
So he was a capo before he was in camp.
But the thing about the left in general, and this is the left ever since it began with Rousseau or with the French socialists or whatever, which is how great the world would be if it were run by people like us, and therefore people like us should run the world.
Oh, look, which goes idealism.
Back to, which I wouldn't call that idealism. I would call it a pretext for giving people like me the power. I should be the one to decide how you live.
Okay, so let's define idealism. Idealism is that let's hope for a better world by living in the future, basically. So, I mean, we're defining it in the way that we understand what they're really looking for. They're hoping that with their actions, that the world will be better tomorrow than it is today. That's the idealism.
But John Maynard Keynes, who was that English economist, said famously, "In the long run, we're all dead." And if these people are saying, "In the short term, you should give me power. I should be the one making the decisions. I should be the one in that mansion, living the life of Riley, while you guys labor away from me. In the long run, everything is going to be great. In the meantime, give me the power." I don't see that as idealistic. I don't see it as idealistic in the least.
You know, I've known 2 billionaires in my lifetime, and I don't envy them. I really don't. And the things that I see that they have to go through within the world and society and everything else, I would not want to be super rich and live a life of Riley. Like, the things that they got going on, like, it is way more stressful than the average Joe. And people don't see the backside of, like, they say, "Oh my God, this guy's rich and he can buy whatever he wants," and yada, yada, yada.
But people still want it. But they still want it. And if you look more through Tenenbaum's book, that was not the only time that he saw Jews applauding for people who hate them, for people who got up on a stage and says, "I hate your frickin' guts." He went to the not the Waldorf. It was the American Jewish organization in Washington, D.C. And one person gets up talking about a Palestinian boy killed in broad daylight by Israeli soldiers as an example of how brutal and lawless Israel is. The audience of liberal American Jews applaud. Don't ask me to explain. Then Amira Haas, a Haaretz columnist, tells these American Jews, "Anybody who intends to emigrate to Israel is about to commit a crime. The Jewish state, if you didn't know, is a criminal state." And what do the Jews do? They applaud. Then Bridget Todd, a black lady who is associated with Black Lives Matter, she shares the stage with Amira. What is she doing here? I can't tell, but it's definitely an effective visual tool to illustrate to Americans what the Jews are doing worldwide, murdering not whites. What else do I see here? Roger Waters. And
I hate Roger Waters.
yeah, well, besides music, right? He's from Pink Floyd. Yeah, that's right. He's comparing Israel to Nazi Germany and engaging in endless activism against Israel. And the Jews here love him for that. And they applaud at the mere mention of his name. It's bizarre to watch. Every time someone says the Jews are horrible, are criminals and thieves, 1,000 American Jews applaud. Now, those people who told us they hate us are tearing down Israeli flags and American flags. They are shouting from the river to the sea. They are attacking Jews. They are doing all of those things. And when we had our warning, so many American Jews, too many American Jews applauded. And as one of the Jews who never applauded, I would say it'll be great to have you back if you are among those who now realize that was a mistake.
Well, Roger Waters would blow up Israel if he could. He would have no problems with it. But how are you? It doesn't matter if you're a righty or a lefty at that point. He's going to kill you either which way. So you see, he's just pushing forward his agenda. And the worst of it is he got Jews to clap to him for it.
Yes. And as awful as it is, if a Jew is clapping for Roger Waters is anti-Semitism, as rotten as that is, if there's a Jew out there who did, and maybe now you see, and gosh, I'd love to have you guys back.
Listen, I'm going to end this podcast with this thought that I want people to really think about, and I want to hear some of your reactions in the comments. When you see Jews who are applauding an anti-Semite, when you see the Neturei Karta standing with like Palestinians saying, how Israelis are bad and Jews are bad, like, are you flipping kidding me? You know what the world sees? The world sees that it's okay to be anti-Semitic because even the Jews are against other Jews, and they take away from that unity, and it's so scary to see that, because then the anti-Semites then think, oh, it's okay to beat down the Jews, and remember this, Naturi Karta, and remember this to the guys who like support anti-Semites like Roger Waters. They will come for you too. Don't think that just because you're on that side, that they're not going to come for you at some point. A Jew is a Jew is a Jew to them. And we are all hated. So, these are my thoughts. I want to thank you all for listening. Listen, y'all have a good day, a good afternoon, and good night. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this content with everybody. We also want to say congratulations to Ari on his new book coming out. Well, you want to tell us a little bit about it?
It's called Just Power, and it finishes up the Kingmaker series. The first 2 volumes, Consent and Due Process, are available now. Just Power is coming out in the weeks to come. So, get yourselves a copy and have an adventure.
Link will be down in the underneath when it's ready. Not yet, though. Not only once it's released.